Ripley.
And I'm John.
And this is Comicsplaining.
The show where, John is now a permanent co-host.
Hello.
Co-host number 4. Our third co-host never announces his presence, but that would be Bandit.
He's a cat.
Yeah, I think this is like your 4th episode in a row.
I like coming here to talk to you about something.
It's about time that we announced it officially.
Seal the deal, so to speak.
This is not something I really know about, and we talked about this stuff long before you did a podcast.
That's kind of the appeal, actually, is that we get to... Because we still get a general idea of what's going on. You're going into the Silver Age, like, pretty much blind.
Yeah, and...
I like having you here because you don't know anything about what either of us are talking about, so you're, like, an impartial fourth party.
If this was about DC Comics, I'd at least know the vague structure of things. But no, this is Marvel. I didn't grow up with Marvel very much. I grew up with DC.
Well, now you're here. God, that just makes me think of I'm a Mac and I'm a PC.
God.
I'm a Marvel and I'm a DC.
Oh my god.
I only reference the oldest shit in the world on this podcast.
Well,
which is fitting considering we're currently doing classic Marvel comics, so that's fine.
And just to make a point, those ads made the Mac seem like an asshole.
Yeah,
you're not
right?
wrong.
Why is Justin Long the guy I'm supposed to side with here?
He's a tool.
Yes. PC's just trying to go about his business, do his things, be an accountant or some boring thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Allow him to be himself.
Here we are. This is the show where we stand up for PC in the Mac versus PC ads from 15 years ago. I'm taking a strong stand here.
This is totally not a stand that has been taken by many, many people over the decade.
Oh god, I don't even think the I'm a Marvel and I'm a DC thing is new. I think I probably encountered that on YouTube at some point.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I definitely wouldn't be.
Because that's a wild thought that YouTube has been around so long that it was a thing when I was in school.
Yeah.
I remember when, if you wanted to watch anime, you watched it in 3 parts on YouTube.
I do remember that.
I remember having a bunch of playlists of Evanescence songs that never actually got properly published because they were old songs, and I would just make a playlist of all of them on YouTube. My display picture on YouTube is a picture of Princess Leia that I made from a screenshot. I forget, because it wasn't an AMV, because it wasn't animated. It was just a screen show.
A clip show.
A clip. No. Like a PowerPoint presentation, but set to
That's
Evanescence songs, and that's what my fucking profile picture is about.
Oh, hey, we're covering a comic far older than any of that.
That's right, yeah. We're gonna start off this week with Avengers 110 from February of 1973. Written by Steve Englehart, pencils by Don Heck, inks by Frank Giacola and Mike Esposito, colors by Glennis Ween, and letters by a new name, Shelley Lefferman. I looked up Shelley and found plenty of information, and yet have nothing to say about him. He did some design work. He had a lengthy career. Both true, neither interesting. Just a guy, which, hey, not a problem. Let's get into see some of Mr. Shelley, Just a Guy's work, shall we?
He's a he, which is news to me.
Yeah.
So.
It's not what I assumed at first, actually. I think the DC Wikipedia actually has... Wikipedia. I think the DC Wiki actually has it listed improperly, but I have pictures of Mr. Shelley.
Okay.
So, unless some things have happened that the history have not covered.
It is possible.
Indeed. Alright, so what happened last time on the X-Men?
It was Morbin time.
It was very much Morbin time.
That's true? What about Morbin time?
Spider-Man had the morbs.
He did.
And he was very ill.
That's true.
And the X-Men were fighting him because...
They don't trust Spider-Man?
No.
Because he kidnapped a guy.
That's what the Daily Bugle said anyway.
That's what the Daily Bugle
Oh,
said.
they thought
And
he
Professor X
Morbius.
was... No, not Morbius.
How do you do this? How do you remember what happened last time?
They thought he kidnapped Professor Jorgensen.
Yeah, that's right, Professor Jorgensen.
Who is a friend of Charles, and Charles read that in the Daily Bugle and was like, "Go capture Spider-Man. I want Spider-Man on my desk." So they did that, and they did catch him, and they brought him back, and then they realized, oh, this guy is morbed all the fuck.
He's got the morbs.
He's got the morbs, something awful. So, and then Professor X was like, if we're going to save him, he has 4 hours to live or something like that, and we have to get Morbius and Professor Jorgensen right now. So they went and they did that, and then Spider-Man was no longer morbed. And
that was the happy end of that story.
And then that was over.
Yeah. I was here for this.
You were here for this.
And I remember very little of that.
Alright, so what happened after Spider-Man was morbed?
Fuck if I know.
Well, do you remember anything?
No, I don't even remember that.
Okay, so Hank and Vera were driving up in Vermont and then at some point didn't have a car anymore.
Oh, it was the Canada thing.
Well, they were on their way to Canada. Something happened on the way to Canada.
This was the Hulk.
The Hulk is down the line. First, they fought someone else.
It was the Halloween issue.
Yes.
Oh, God.
For some reason, I thought that was the last X-Men episode before the one we're talking about.
Okay, I will say one thing. Without having X-Men to structure this round, it is so much harder to even
remember what the issues were. Yeah.
Yeah, so Hank and Vera were driving through Vermont, and I guess their car broke down or something, and they were stranded, and...
Oh, here it goes.
Beast,
Was this the Juggernaut?
Yes, this was the Juggernaut.
The issue with the Juggernaut. Beast got them a ride with some Marvel creators who were in the comic.
Which is very weird.
And then Jugsy showed up. He just appeared out of a portal, and then he went back in the portal immediately.
He kept on going in and out of portals.
Yeah.
He was playing with portals.
Yeah.
My dude, this is not how portals work.
And they went to this Halloween party, except Hank and Vera were trying to get to Canada because the world was going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And Juggernaut was there.
That's true.
And Glynis disappeared, but we didn't find out what happened to her. She just reappeared later.
That would be Glynis Wein, colorist of the comic.
Yep, who was also in the comic. I feel like that had to be some kind of inside joke or something.
Maybe. I never considered that.
Like, there's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah, right?
Was this just a thing they did regularly?
So anyway...
Every once in a while.
The Juggernaut was there, and he was fighting the Beast, and then Beast... because the writer misunderstood or forgot where Juggernaut's powers came from.
They completely forgot how Juggernaut worked.
The Beast ripped off Jugsy's helmet, and then Jugsy lost his powers and rapidly aged and died.
Yeah. Fun fact, in the intervening time, there are things we haven't covered, and we'll get to that in a bit, but the Juggernaut just came back to life like nothing happened.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that...
okay, but there's usually they make a big deal out of it when someone comes back, and the Juggernaut was just back fighting the Hulk.
Yes, sometimes you do such a bad job killing a character that it can't be canon.
Alright, well, what happened next? So... the Juggernaut aged and died, and they continued on their journey to Canada. What happened?
John, tell me about Canada.
Broke into Canada.
They did.
Beast, there was, someone was getting stopped, and Beast was like, no, we don't have time?
They shut down the borders because the Hulk was there.
Yeah, he was on a rampage. He smashed up some Mounties.
Yeah, the Mounties were trying to stop
the Mounties felt like they had a better shot than the U.S. Army. Which, maybe they do in their silly outfits.
You wouldn't think that the FBI would go try and fight the Hulk, you mean?
I wouldn't normally... I haven't heard a lot about FBI agents going after the Hulk. I definitely haven't heard about a lot of state police going after the Hulk. And my understanding is Mounties are basically like Canadian state police.
My understanding is that they're more like the FBI. the Canadian State Police is more like the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police.
Oh, heck of a uniform for the FBI.
Right? I think that more FBI, like localized FBI people should have like we were talking about
regional
cowboys.
variants.
Yeah, cowboys.
And horses.
So the borders were shut down because Hulk was there, but they illegally crossed the borders because Hank did a King Kong. And then they found the place that they were looking for.
That they'd been looking for a while.
Yes, and it was a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and it turns out that Mimic was there.
Who I forgot was a thing.
Because his powers came back, and they've been growing to the point where he now saps, like, life energy out of people.
Including the
just
Hulk.
by being nearby them.
Yep.
So they have to fix that, otherwise everyone on the planet is going to die eventually. So they started doing that, and then the Hulk was nearby, and his strength was getting drained.
He was not the strongest there was.
Not any longer.
And
so
not happy about that one
Not
bit.
happy at all.
But his anger didn't make him strong
So
enough.
he went towards them, and he climbed a mountain and then fell into the cabin.
Through the floor.
Yeah. And then he was like, smash you, and
Hulk strongest there is!
And Beast fought him for a second, and then Mimic was like, well, I guess this is my time to die. Again. And he died.
It's weird.
And then Hulk walked away sadly.
This is... apparently I've read the most Hulk out of any of us. And this feels very Hulk.
Well, it was a Hulk book, so that does make sense.
Yeah, but,
That's correct.
doing that to Mimic feels very Hulk.
Alright, so what has happened in the interim that we haven't covered, that's my job. In the interim, the Secret Empire story ended. You may notice that Angel just kind of disappeared during, or you will notice, Angel kind of disappears here. And that's because after this, the Secret Empire shit happens. And Secret Empire, I did look up, and I was confirmed that, yeah, they were initially Hydra at some point. So, this is actually covering shit that happens after this, but it's the funny thing. They steal a bunch of mutants that they're going to use to somehow get a UFO powered so they can go to the White House and do some shit. And so Captain America finds out about this and runs around with Banshee and Falcon to figure out what's up. So he finally gets there and he runs to the White House and he ends up chasing number one of the Secret Empire. But when he gets there, he gets him cornered. He pulls off his mask and it's heavily implied that number one is Richard Nixon.
Wow.
Richard, you heard it here first, folks. Richard Nixon was a secret Nazi who ran the Secret Empire.
He was a secret breakaway Nazi from the secret Nazis who already existed.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about Cap, you'll know he becomes Nomad for a while. This is what spurs on Cap becoming Nomad, being so disenchanted by America to find out that Richard Nixon was number one.
Oh my god.
I mean, I know...
They couldn't outright say it, but it was heavily implied.
Our society kind of started to break down when Richard Nixon did crime.
There's a lot of crime going on in that White House, actually, a shocking amount of crime, but this is not the White House crime podcast. I mean, there's arguably a very big place for a White House crime podcast,
Okay.
especially these days, but...
But the thing is, I mean, Captain America is very much a political
Yes.
series.
Oh, absolutely. That was the whole point.
Every time I've read anything about him, any of his books, it's always been wildly political in a way that others aren't.
I just love that they decided Richard Nixon. People were not happy with Mr. Nixon.
You don't say.
Yeah, no shit.
What else happened? The thing with the Juggernaut, they managed to capture Hulk. Project Hulkbuster managed to capture Hulk in a facility, and then at some point he ended up fighting the Juggernaut, and then at the end of the episode, the X-Men showed up for like 3 minutes, and were like, hey, we're having problems. And then, so it turns out the problems they were having was the Secret Empire shit. So and eventually all the captured mutants were freed, so... That's the underwhelming end of the Secret Empire shit that was going on with Hank, so that's wrapped up.
That's depressing.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That's the majority of what's been going on. We haven't covered... Magneto is here on the cover, so obviously, and I think I mentioned last episode, actually, Magneto is here. Magneto has done some shit in the interim to fuck with the Avengers and Captain America. Back on his trying to create mutant shit that's par for the course at this point. But I think beyond that, we are actually ready to roll, right?
Yes, but I have something to say about this cover.
Indeed.
I don't understand the material of Magneto's shirt.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Because it is both, like, pinched as if it's loose, but also perfectly contoured to his abs.
Right, it's his abs are just perfectly sculpted, which fits
Did he,
with
like,
the rest of the outfit.
So, did he paste it to his abs and leave it loose in the armpits?
He got top surgery and didn't bother to get a new outfit.
Oh my god.
That's not the take I'm going with, I'm just saying. I just had something.
It's weird. It just looks weird. It's really weird.
I don't know why Bobby's just kind of curled up, crouching.
The more I look
sad.
at Cyclops' shoulder, the more worried I am about his shoulder.
Yeah, his shoulder's a little off.
Yeah, but to be fair, that's kind of a weird pose.
Yeah, it is. We open on T'Challa, schooling Iron Man in hand-to-hand combat. It seems that even the Golden Avengers' best technology can't beat the fearsome feline speed of the Black Panther, as T'Challa himself intones.
Oh god, that sure was an era of writing.
Tony hasn't given up just yet, but the impromptu sparring session is cut short as Thor bursts through the door, calling the Avengers to order. The Scarlet Witch is instantly concerned, but Thor is in a jovial mood as he announces that he comes bearing good news.
His helmet is intense.
Yeah, it's really... Wow, he's got those wings are wild.
It usually doesn't go straight
out of the side of his head. Taking some inspiration from Dad.
He's not around Odin, so he has to have the best hat.
Best hat in the room.
And considering he's with a guy who wears a metal helmet, a guy who's just...
I mean, it doesn't take much to be the best hat in the room.
Yeah.
I think there's like...
Does Tony count as having a hat?
A hat? No, I don't think so. I think the only one here who you could count as having a hat is Wanda.
That's a hat?
If you really stretch... If you look at, like, the MCU take with it being a helmet, you could make a case that Cap is wearing a hat.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a hood, but hey, what do I know?
It's part of his onesie.
Well, Wanda, along with her comrade, follows behind Thor to the communication room, where she is immediately relieved to see her brother, safe and sound. I'm not entirely sure what's been happening with this pair, but it seems that at some point prior to this, Pietro was grievously injured. He lay unconscious for a time until he met up with Crystal of the Inhumans. No longer a child hostage to Maximus for the first time in our read-through, but it seems that she is responsible for his return, having nursed him back to health.
God, Inhuman business.
We don't know what's been happening with this whole situation, so let's have P get us all up to speed, huh? Apparently Wanda was caught in the Sentinel's Australian base, which is news to me, but here we are.
Okay, Australia.
Apparently his attempt to save Wanda didn't go so well, as, while fleeing a Sentinel, he smashed full force into a wall, and that was it for his glorious attempt at a rescue.
Good job.
Man, Pietro and the Sentinels not having a great track record here.
Fantastic.
I thought you were better than that.
Well, as he lays on the edge of death, Pietro wonders if the glow around him is just his dying vision as he fades from consciousness for the last time. But what it really is Lockjaw, who by sheer coincidence jumped here with Crystal. Seeing the injured man, she immediately brought him back to Adelan to seek to care for him. As he recovered, she dutifully tended to him, and slowly a bond began to grow between the pair. Crystal was looking for someone else in her life, having recently broken up with Johnny Storm of the Fantastic Four.
Wow,
the rebound.
He really does get around over at Adelan.
Yeah, he does. And Pietro came to appreciate the tenderness she showed while caring for him, bringing Pietro around to the conclusion of this little tale that he and Crystal have decided to be wed. Wanda is delighted with the news, even on top of her delight at her brother's survival in the first place. In a celebratory mood, Wanda shares some positive news of her own. She and the Vision have decided to enter into a relationship. Pietro, though, is not nearly as happy to share in his sister's happiness.
Why?
In fact, he explodes, furious at the idea of his sister involved with a robot. He forbids her, as the head of the family, from carrying on with it and immediately hangs up on her, telling her he won't talk with her so long as she keeps dating him.
Wait, he's the head of the...
He's older by like a few minutes.
Yes, but is this dirt...
They don't know that Magneto is their dad.
They do not.
Okay, I don't know.
That doesn't happen for a while.
I didn't know when that...
Though we're probably actually not going to cover that. It just happens off screen.
Fair enough.
As far as we're concerned, anyway. The Avengers watch on as Wanda dissolves into tears in Vision's arms. So that has to be really uncomfortable to watch, right?
Yeah,
you know,
awkward.
So one of your business partners is having a conversation in public.
I mean, look at their faces over here, like...
Ooh, cringe.
Yeesh, Tug's collar.
Yeah, that was on speaker. That was
in front of everyone. They were all on camera. Well, they shrink back a bit to quietly discuss things among themselves. Not only was that really uncomfortable, but it seems the Avengers are well in need of a recruitment drive, as not only is Quicksilver now on Adelan throwing a pissy fit, Hawkeye also just left. When Thor saw Quicksilver, he was really hoping that he was going to be returning, but now he can't even be on video chat with Wanda and Vision, let alone sharing the same building with them.
Why are you so weird about this?
Right?
My dude, why?
T'Challa quietly feels even more uncomfortable as, unbeknownst to the rest of the Avengers, Wakanda has been pleading for the return of their prince.
Oh, boy.
Yikes.
Guys, I'm gonna have to quit soon.
It's like, Sword Law members, huh? Well, the video screen opens up again, and everyone is confused because there's literally no way Pietro is over this yet. But no, it isn't Pietro. Instead, it is an aerial shot of a mansion. The camera dives down and through an open door, revealing a trashed interior, furnitures and belongings strewn violently around the house. The camera continues on its live-streamed journey through the house, moving through from one room to another, where a man in a suit lies crumpled on the ground. One of the Avengers remembers the bald man from Reed and Sue's wedding reception, though they can't place the name. However, we can, as it is Charles Xavier. He begins to stir at the new arrival, apparently the one responsible for the destruction of the house, and if Charles is to be believed, the X-Men. He defiantly cries that he will not allow the individual to gloat over him, but before they respond, the camera cuts out.
This is very creepy TikTok.
It's just in time for Thor to be able to place the face, though. He remembers when Charles mentally spoke with him while the X-Men and Avengers were fighting. Thor immediately declares that all this fretting over numbers is not important and they need to go help the X-Men immediately. And he orders the Avengers to start flying in circular patterns, widening out from the city to search for a house like the one they saw in the video feed.
He also swings his hammer through his legs somehow.
Oh, wow.
He's flossing.
And
behind his cape?
Yeah, there's some
shit
choices
going on there.
being made here. I feel like an inker didn't get something quite right here.
Because, like, you can see the lines that...
Yeah.
But the color is wrong.
But
Yeah.
the leg is completely...
Yeah, the leg is completely fucking wild, unless he's, like, passing it off from hand to hand.
You know, maybe they just made a mistake and couldn't fix it.
Yeah, I think it's just an inking mistake, if I have to be perfectly honest. Even as the Avengers, already gifted with flight, take off, so too do the rest of the Avengers, albeit with a little more mechanical assistance than the rest. Black Panther in his own ship, and Captain America and the Scarlet Witch together in a Quinjet. As they take to the skies, searching for the X-Mansion, it seems that most of the Avengers have that uncomfortable scene in the communication room weighing heavily on their minds.
You don't say.
Wanda opens up to Cap that she's still upset and finding it really hard to focus on the mission at hand. Cap comforts her that if Pietro wants to cut her out, that's his mistake, not hers. He read her "I am the asshole" post and came to the conclusion, not the asshole. Thor briefly ponders his relationship with Jane, but let's not focus on that because Tony says something utterly page-stealing and baffling for me. Pepper, Janice, Meredith, Marianne, all the others. I've loved many a good woman in my time, and they've loved me, but I've never seen a love like Wanda in the Visions. Maybe that's because his feelings are held in plastic, and mine are encased with iron.
What the hell?
What the fuck does that even mean?
I don't know, but I love it. It's exactly the kind of soap opera meaningless bullshit he would say.
That's a good point.
That's my Iron Man.
I was going to ask if that was an accurate take on Tony, because it didn't sound right, but as Tony doubting himself, you'd say that's correct. All right, perfect. My feelings are held in iron, proceeds to fall for any woman who bats her eyes at him.
Yup.
Tony.
I think he may just be off the back of a bad breakup. He did say that he and Marianne didn't exactly end well.
No. That's an understatement.
Yeah, that does sound like someone right after a bad breakup.
Yeah, well, elsewhere, Hawkeye climbs some stairs to the Black Widow's place. She's out in San Francisco right now with Daredevil. When he reaches the top, he's told by Nat's assistant that she's out with Daredevil, so buzz off.
Assistant, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with them. Yes.
Why does she have an aide de camp?
Great question, right? Well, Buzz Clint does, but only off to the garden where he decides to wait in a tree until she returns because he has feelings. Totally cool and normal.
Okay.
The men in this comic do not know how to act.
No. Wanda and Cap spot the mansion from above, and so before landing, they shoot the cords over to the rest of the team and set down. Iron Man comments that it puts Tony Stark's mansion to shame.
Is this just what he was like before he was publicly Tony?
Yes.
That he just dunked on himself all the time?
Pretty much.
Oh.
Well, he was posing as his own bodyguard, so...
Do I have some shit to tell you about Iron Man?
So it makes sense when you think about it like that, because he's pretending to be his own employee.
Yeah. It's really funny.
And it's another way for him to hate himself.
That's true.
Ooh, yeah, I can see how that would be very cathartic. Well, they begin to search the mansion, and one by one find the comatose X-Men asleep on the floor. First Cyclops, then Marvel Girl, then Iceman. Wanda, more than anyone, is especially concerned about the X-Men, feeling that she really owes them for helping she and Pietro get free from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. She and Cap spot Xavier, also laying still on the ground, much like his students, and they rush into his office, planning to take both he and the rest of the X-Men to the hospital. Unfortunately, both Wanda and the Avengers strategist walk straight into the most obvious fucking trap possible.
It's a trap!
Like what, you think Professor X steered the drone down to himself to put on a show?
Yes.
You think the culprit just beat feet after making sure you saw that? Rad plan, guys.
They clearly forgot how cameras work.
Right. The door slams shut behind them, and Cerebro comes to life. And since at this point in time, Cerebro is just a weird metal octopus...
Chuck in his robot tentacles.
Oh, God.
Bad robot tentacles.
Well, it ensnares Steve in one of its tentacles, flinging him across the room. Of course, because Cap is from the Stone Age, he decides to call it a monster.
Uh-huh.
Sure. He orders Wanda to protect Xavier as he fights the monster with his new super strength. I thought he already had super strength, but from the editor's box, Roy says that if we want to know what the fuck that's about, we should read Captain America books. I mean, touche.
No.
Well, let's stop and go do that right
Let's
now.
get right to it.
I'm not in any hurry to read Cap books, sorry.
Rogers hits Cerebro with his shield, but the old girl is still feisty. So since Wanda still can't get the door to even budge, Cap breaks the thing down with his new super strength, holding Cerebro off while Wanda drags Charles off to safety. Outside, she quickly meets back up with her other teammates, each carrying an X-Man in hand, apart from Iron Man, who is still missing.
Wow, suspicious that Iron Man went missing. In the issue where we're fighting Magneto.
He's just... See, I thought he was just checking out how much cooler this house is.
Yeah, that's all he's doing. And he'll be back and he'll say the house was cool.
You may have noticed that our X roundup is at least one member short, and that's if we're not counting Alex and Lorna. Iron Man emerges from the house holding Angel in his arms, in much the same shape as the others. They make a break for the Quinjet, but the Hotel California here is making a strict movement on its no vacancies allowed policy. Giant boulders begin to erupt from the ground, hurling themselves at the Avengers and their precious cargo.
That's a lot of rocks.
Vision has his girlfriend climb up on his back and ride him. Oh, not as dirty as it sounds.
But would he... Okay.
He's using his body as a shield for both Wanda and Marvel Girl.
Okay, for a moment there, I thought he was just using his body as a shield for Wanda.
Yeah, I don't see how he's holding her all that safely, but what do I know? And also, there are rocks still pointing around Viz. Points for good intentions, but just because you're blocking more rocks from the ground doesn't mean you're handling all the ones already flying around.
It's a lot of rocks.
Just let Wanda hex the rocks and they'll blast.
Nah, protect the girls. Clearly they need protection.
The Avengers then get into some absolute cartoon hijinks here to get away from the rocks. Iron Man is backwards armpit carrying T'Challa, who under each arm has Iceman and the Angel, and then Cap is surfing on Thor's fucking back holding Professor X and Cyclops.
Thor has a history of carrying people in weird ways. He just does that.
It makes sense. He can't armpit carry someone like Tony. He's got to have one hand going.
Exactly.
Okay, but Wanda, who is supposed to be powerful in her own right, just needed protection.
She should be poofing these rocks out of
Yes.
innocence. She's also not as powerful as she is later. She gets a lot of training in magic.
But she should be able to do something.
Absolutely.
Well, she's a woman, so she starts out weak and then gets strong later.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, the Avengers make it back to the Quinjet, which miraculously hasn't been destroyed in the barrage.
why not?
Maybe not so miraculously.
Ah.
As soon as they arrive, the chaos immediately stops. Most of the Avengers are kind of confused, but the Scarlet Witch immediately knows the score. She's dealt with this exact kind of theatric bullshit before, and she immediately calls this out as being the work of Magneto.
I mean, she did work for him, so fair enough.
She knows when she sees it.
She knows his work.
Pondering it, Thor concedes this is very much something Magneto would be capable of doing. Their discussion is cut forth as flute song begins to fill the air. I'm just going to have to read this fun turn of phrase from writer Steve, because it's a lot. In 1697, William Congreve wrote, "Music hath charms to soothe the savage breast," often misquoted as savage beast. But however you lay it out, if it can soothe, it can also enrage. And within the savage breasts of these savage beasts right now, there's a fury beyond all rational limits!
Oh my god! These look so good. Look at that T-Rex. Look at his head.
What even is?
Look at this whole area.
What is this?
What is this guy?
What is this though?
What are these?
What are
What
those?
is this guy? Is my question?
His face is like the whole. This
They
guy
all-
up here.
Two of them have their tongues sticking out. You can only.
All the better
Glad-
to taste you with, my dear.
Why is this quote with this?
The flute is a battle cry for a wide assortment of dinosaurs to suddenly burst forth from the trees to attack the Avengers.
You know, the natural enemy of the X-Men. Dinosaurs.
No, the natural enemy of the Avengers. Are you not paying attention?
The X-Men are already defeated, John.
Well, that's why the dinosaurs are here.
They didn't even need the dinosaurs. There's nothing really to say, unfortunately, about the Avengers fighting dinosaurs. It's really kind of a bummer of a sentence.
Damn.
They've momentarily turned back the tide of dinosaurs long enough to observe that the piper behind this flute song isn't at all troubled by the dinosaurs. So he's definitely the one in
Oh
charge
my god,
of
it's
that.
the bitch from the Savage Land.
It's the bitch from the Savage Land.
I did kind of figure there's only really one easy place to get dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very fair point.
So, like, this is why this is a weird X-Men problem.
Yeah. So I guess the piper wasn't as dead as we thought Kazar left him. Vision also knows about the piper for some reason, so there must have been some note sharing somewhere along the way. A Triceratops rushes at Vision, and that's nothing for him. He just turns intangible, allowing it to pass right through him harmlessly. Of course, that's not what he actually does. Instead, midway through the dinosaur's charge, he re-solidifies inside of it.
Vision is kind of vicious.
The Triceratops cries out in pain and then collapses, stunned.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, stunned.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happens when a person materializes in your gut.
Uh-huh. I'm sure it doesn't have a giant hole in it now.
Well, T'Challa has had it with this nonsense, and he dashes for the piper, ready to put a stop to Jurassic World annihilation or whatever the hell we're calling this. Before he can close the distance, the boulders suddenly rise back to life, forming up around the Piper a safe shell of iron. Luckily, the Avengers have a Thor fully willing and able to let loose on the new lawn ornament on the X-Mansion. He batters the mound of iron with his hammer, but the mound batters him right back. The Thunder God is beginning to get very aggravated with this situation. He can't hit the Piper with his hammer, and the head bitch in charge won't reveal himself. Or wouldn't, because finally Magneto reveals that all along it was he dressed in the Angel's costume.
Oh my god.
No one noticed that this wasn't a teenager.
Wow. That's incredible.
They didn't check.
His plan was to get Tony to fly him over to the Quinjet for some reason. Like, I'm pretty sure they just parked on the lawn, right? I'm sure we get Prophet a few stages along in this plan somewhere.
I'm trying to actually figure out... Wait, so this plan required... What? Why?
It required the Avengers to show up so Tony could carry him across the lawn to the Quinjet, which wasn't there at the time.
Why? Why did he need a Quinjet?
Oh, we'll get there. I mean, it's not a good explanation, but it is an explanation. He then changes gears about wanting to keep Wanda and the X-Men, which surely this has to be all about Wanda, right? Because he already had the X-Men managed before this. He didn't have to deal with the Avengers at all since they didn't know. Obviously, they're not going to stand for this, but Magneto does the obvious thing and throws Iron Man around. Another instance of my favorite thing, beating a motherfucker with another motherfucker.
So this is a time when Magneto could still handily body Iron Man.
I mean, arguably...
I think that's always a time.
Right, and there's also the case that Tony has made some improvements based on getting his ass handed to him by Magneto.
Or being used as a weapon.
To protect himself at the very least.
Yes, you don't want this motherfucker deciding they're gonna crash you on their forehead like a fucking beer can.
He's encased himself in metal. He's a very readily available blunt instrument. He gets used in that manner quite often.
I love it. The rest of the Avengers aren't in trouble either, as Magneto begins bombarding the remaining Avengers once more, even as he takes off in his new Quinjet.
And he has his helmet now.
He's just wearing his helmet on top of his angel outfit.
Hey Magneto, where did you get that from? Where were you hiding it?
You know, he just...
His pocket.
Yeah.
You know, that pocket that Angel's outfit definitely has.
He did make Angel's outfit.
He did.
He takes off in the Quinjet, the X-Men, Captain America, and Iron Man all in tow.
Why?
And then he boasts mockingly to Wanda about his victory. She makes to hex him, but before she can, she begins to go still and blank, as Magneto reveals that he's done all of this by mind control.
What?
As he flies back off into the sky, back below on the ground, Thor, Vision, and the Black Panther are finally able to get free. But now they're really feeling that low head count problem.
Magneto's new secret power.
Yeah.
His hair looks luxurious in that middle.
It does look really nice. What products do you use, bro?
Magneto has mind control.
Yes.
What?
We're gonna have to move along to the next issue for a little bit of an explanation. The story itself in the endnotes directs us to go read an issue of Daredevil to continue the saga, but that issue is about 17 pages of Matt and Clint fighting over Natasha, and 3 pages of the Avengers being like, hey guys, come help us maybe? And Daredevil and Nat are like, sure, but Hawkeye is butthurt, assumedly after sitting in that tree all fucking day, so he says, fuck you.
Well, it'd be nice to know why Nat has an aide-de-camp.
I have no answers. I've seen him later, but I don't know what his deal is. All that said and done, we're going to move along to Avengers 111 from February of 1973, written by Steve Englehart, pencils by Don Heck, inks by Mike Esposito, letters by John Costanza, and colored by our only new name for this one, David Hunt. He's got a lot of work around the various companies right at the time we're covering right now, so that fits. But apparently his true love was always painting. And this shit is a fucking painting. He had a love for these hyper-realistic paintings. That was his fucking deal.
That whole thing is a painting?
That is a painting.
Oh.
I
Right?
love that shit.
It's fucking awesome.
It's got a mirror on it.
Yep. He painted that, my dude. He just painted it. The cover on this one always cracked me up. I don't even know where to start. Magneto behind the wheel of a great big automobile, giving Iron Man and Captain America the Grand Theft Auto pedestrian treatment. or the proclamation that, hey, you may have ambushed Earth's mightiest heroes, but here comes Daredevil and the Black Widow. Fucking tremble.
Who are definitely more powerful than Thor, Iron Man, and Vision.
Right. I just love the idea of Magneto driving cars. Like, I'm sure he does it all the time when he's not being a raving wild man out here before he gets sorted out. But, like, driving a car because Magneto or not, you do still need milk from the grocery store is a wholly different thing than driving a car dressed up as Magneto.
Okay, but maybe Magneto just buys milk from the grocery store as Magneto.
I never considered that, but, like, imagine you're at a stoplight, rocking out or whatever, and then you look out the window of the car next to you, and there's Magneto, helmet and cape and all. This is a convertible in my fantasy, because then his cape can flow in the breeze.
Yeah, obviously.
That was unnecessary detail, but hey, onward ho. So we open up on a doozy that is weird and uncomfortable to begin with, and even weirder and more uncomfortable given future retcons. So as we left off on, Magneto has mind control powers now. He's utilizing those powers to make Wanda dance for him in front of the blank-faced X-Men, Captain America, and Iron Man before him on the throne that he has, which is frankly the thing least in need of questioning. Dance, my blank-eyed beauty, dance to my tune, because I, Magneto, control your every graceful movement. Moving on. You may be wondering how Magneto is managing this little feat. While monologuing to his faithful number one, the Piper, he explains that he's controlling them by controlling the iron in their blood so that he can have them as conscious as he wants.
What?
I don't think that would control their minds, though!
It's a stretch anatomically, but, like, I can roll with that in comic book land. Like, I get how you could be like, okay, I don't want you to be conscious anymore, have less blood.
He's blood-bending.
Yeah, I was about to say, I would buy this more if it was more like bloodbending, but controlling their mind doesn't make any sense.
It makes no fucking sense.
That's not how blood works.
I could have rolled with the first way in comic book land, but what I don't understand is how he's utilizing this to make Wanda dance, as you, Magneto, control her every graceful... He's also going to use this to create an army, because that control is definitely something you're going to be able to maintain focus on enough to keep an entire fucking army on task. Piper points out that the Avengers are definitely going to come around here and live up to their name, and Magneto's like, no, Piper, baby, there's like 3 of them.
Yeah, but you left the powerful ones behind.
I am going to sick my army on them, which, like, to my knowledge is like 8 people, 10 if you count him and Piper. Are the dinosaurs in the horde? Are there more members of the army? Well, Magneto's gonna get what he's asking for because the Avengers are on the way, along with the temporary recruits of Daredevil and the Black Widow. So here's the fun part of the comic where we get knee-deep in someone else's messy drama.
Oh boy.
That's been one of my favorite parts of the X hiatus. Peter Parker is having political relationship issues. Betty got married. Urella, my love! Let's get into what all that shit with Clint was about. Apparently, Hawkeye was also a contender for Nat's heart.
Yeah, that was always a thing.
But she chose Vision instead. Hurt, he rebounded hard back onto Natasha, but since Nat's been with Matt, he had to beef with Matt.
I didn't know those two were ever a thing.
Yeah, they were a thing. They still kind of have chemistry. Natasha then blames herself for this, which is completely unreasonable under the fucking circumstances.
Why?
In what way is that your fault? So the Avengers get home, sit down at the table, and are like, so, plans, anyone got a plan? And Daredevil is like, none of you even have the beginnings of a plan. Which hilariously, Thor is just like, you got me there, bro.
Thor's not really a plan guy, I guess.
Nah, I don't think so. So Jarvis brings in a hot pot of coffee for the gang, and with coffee, surely a newspaper too. Daredevil's resting his hand on a newspaper when he suddenly realizes that beneath his fingers, the newsprint informs of an Atomic Energy Commission meeting being held 50 miles away.
Okay, that's a thing.
Yeah. Thor runs with that idea. Atomic energy is the prime cause of mutations. We're on this again, the fucking sun did it. And since Magneto is definitely focused on mutant stuff, he might be interested. Meanwhile, Natasha mopes about her love life.
Natasha's wearing a bumpet.
Yeah, well, she just did that, but I know you know that.
I know.
The key to my heart, Clint Barton. I wish I truly knew where it was. Now it seems to lie with Matt, my swashbuckling partner. And years ago it belonged to my husband, Alexei, who the world knew as Red Guardian, but in between there was you. Standing here in the room you called your own, looking down at the same view, I wonder how often did you stand here and think of me? Oh, Hawkeye, Hawkeye, they said you were like a child. If so, you only needed me as a woman in so many ways more than one, and I failed you in all of them.
Yikes!
Gross.
Girl.
You do not need to be that man's mother.
No.
That's creepy.
Terrible. T'Challa comes up to fetch her to see what her man came up with. Though I wonder how long he was standing there because she was saying all of this out loud. But just when you thought it was safe to go outside, just when you thought you were free of Clint Barton's romantic woes, here's the man himself. He is sulking on top of the Golden Gate Bridge, but sulking nonetheless. It pretty much is just a woe is me routine that makes him seem even more pathetic than the brief glimpses I've seen before in these past issues right here. But he is bound and determined to try and build his life back up again anyway. Let's get to some important people gathered around this table as the meeting of the Atomic Energy Commission comes to order.
This is a soap opera.
I love it. They're meeting here instead of their usual place because they think they're under threat of attack at their base by someone or other. Who could it be? Here's the problem with this. Why was it in the fucking newspaper?
Good question.
If you're trying to avoid the motherfucker who's trying to fucking get at you, why would you put your fucking location in the newspaper? They're probably asking themselves that as mere moments later the table just cracks in half out of nowhere.
God.
Wow.
Outside the window, we see the culprit. The Scarlet Witch, at the direction of Magneto, made short work of the table with one of her hex bolts to draw everyone's attention to the window. Now able to see every gun in the room, it's short work for Magneto to yoink them all out of the Secret Servicemen's hands. Still, there is a hero here. The return of a queer character that I thought Marvel would just ignore like so many to follow him. But no, T-Man is back!
T-Man!
Here in the Atomic Energy Commission's hour of direst need.
Where is he?
He's the guy at the bottom. I don't know why. They just keep calling him T-Man. Our brave hero rushes the window. Magneto's got a jaw that needs punching and T-Man's fists are full of testosterone aggression.
What the fuck?
Unfortunately, every hero has their limit, and T-Man is felled by a repulsor blast from Iron Man. Max then sends in the X-Men, assumedly to secure things. The Secret Servicemen are fighting like the lives of both they and their charges depend on it, which they may well. Magneto's ensnared heroes fight fairly lifelessly, but it really doesn't matter. The Secret Service are bringing fists to an optic blast fight, so it's not going well.
So a fists to a laser fist fight.
Not laser fist, punching. Eye punching.
Beams.
Our intrepid hero, T-Man, is still up and fighting desperately, but Iceman snares him and several other suits in ice. Magneto takes a moment to gloat over T-Man, but while he's busy with that...
T-Man, if you're not familiar or if you're confused, is a recurring character who appeared in a previous
Spider-Man
of Amazing Spider-Man, who was a man in the background with a giant T on his shirt.
Why is this guy called T-Man?
Because that's what I named him.
Oh, you named it, but it says T-Man on the page.
It does.
Yup, it sure does.
This is just, he's grown up a little bit in the intervening years.
We invented him like a month ago, and also he appeared in this comic in the 70s. What are you not getting?
Well, while Magneto is busy gloating over T-Man, he immediately proves my criticism of his plan true, because while he was distracted, Scott got socked in the jaw because he couldn't defend himself. At the end of the day, the fight's still an easy sweep. The members of the Commission are herded outside, assumedly for the stolen Quinjet off to God knows where. But that's when another T-Man sets down, though this time it is Thor. Still does wear a T on his person, though.
He does.
And he's not okay with Magneto's plan. Magneto's got to deal with this, so he puts Tony Baloney on sheepdog duty, herding the politicians into the ship. Thor then throws his hammer at Magneto, but zombified Cap manages to intercept it with his shield, which I feel like is wrong. I can maybe get how it could withstand a blow in a fight where you're like holding it with some pressure behind it, but how much is throwing with it gonna fuck up with that kind of momentum?
Yeah, because especially since Mjolnir is enchanted
Right.
to always strike true, so I don't see how it wouldn't just bash the shield aside.
Real American
Or-
power. That's
or
how.
if you want to do something super cool, I think that it should make a shockwave, personally.
Oh, I love that idea.
Because Uru versus Vibranium.
Oh, this
Does
is
do that, doesn't it?
No, this is Asgardian strength and magic versus America.
America! Well, Max knows he's not going to be able to pull that fucking rabbit out of the hat again, so he releases the Octofumes.
What?
The what?
The Octofumes, which appear to just be really dark, inky smoke. Black
Okay.
Widow can't see in all
It-
this black smoke.
It's-
Daredevil, funnily enough, doesn't have anything to say.
It does say Octofumes.
It does! I would not lie to you about this. Fuck,
Yes,
I
you
will.
would.
No, they wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. Not about Octofumes. I have my...
You
They
have
have
standards.
integrity.
I do!
Okay, I would lie about Octofumes. I'm sorry.
Thor summons up a storm, toot sweet, to blow the smoke away, but the ship is still pumping out more as it starts to lift off, so it's kind of like, they're matched.
War of attrition.
Yep. Daredevil and Black Panther then pull this fucking amazing maneuver. So T'Challa gets swinging around on this branch like it's a fucking gymnastic bar, right? And then Matt grabs onto his ankles, and T'Challa, still swinging around, slingshots him into the air, which fucking works, and Matt manages to grab the ship.
And they didn't
Fantastic.
break the tree.
It's only at this point that Murdoch stops a minute to be like, wait, I have no idea what I'm doing. He tries to open a window to climb inside, but apparently the windows are electrified, so I guess this probably isn't the Quinjet unless that's a feature. Who knows where the hell that thing is? Well, the shock knocks Hornhead off the fucking ship, so now he's falling through the air. Nat manages to throw him a line on the way down, and between that and his billy club, he's able to slow himself down enough to catch himself. Well, as shockingly, Daredevil was not the correct hero to throw at a fucking flying ship,
I'm
Thor
shocked.
is now coming up from behind. This man can move faster than light, Mags. You stand no chance.
Why didn't we just go with Thor to begin
He was
with?
busy.
Okay,
He was
but
blowing away the smoke.
Knowing this, Magneto stops him by imperiling his friends. He has Tony dangling Cap out of a door of the ship by his ankles, and if he keeps him up, Iron Man will drop him, and then the rest will jump too.
Why didn't Magneto take control of Thor?
Great question.
It seems like that would be a no-brainer.
Thor's
He's having
blood
fun.
doesn't have metal in it.
Oh,
That's
God.
a good point, actually. I was about to say that he is Asgardian. It might be different.
Might be an Asgardian physiology thing. There we go. No prize.
And Vision doesn't have blood.
Well, obviously, I didn't even bring that up.
I know. Just saying.
Why are we even talking about Vision, guys? Come on.
Actually, where
is
Vision?
he? That's a great point.
Very good point, actually. Thor knows he's not going to catch them all, so he gives up his pursuit, touching back down on the ground near his friends, quite vexed by the honorless cur's use of hostages. The team huddle up to come up with their next plan, when T'Challa gives voice to something he's been thinking over.
We're of like minds, I see.
Yep, Magneto set dinosaurs on them. Dinosaurs don't just come from nowhere, so they had to, have a home nearby. They don't just wander New York. And if they head back to the school, just maybe he can use his nose to set him on the right path. He then also realizes the Vision is gone. Whoops.
Hey, you finally got to the things we were asking questions about.
Indeed, it was addressed. Magneto, now at home sweet home, decides it's time to yell at his house guests.
Oh my god.
Because instead of trying to rule the world with the power they got by definitely not wanting to rule the world, they're not trying to rule the world and just do their jobs.
I'm not really sure how the Atomic Commission rules anything.
Well, let's get to Magneto's evil plan to explain that. That he wants the commissioners to tell him how to gain access to the entire nation's atomic power so he can irradiate everyone to make more mutants, which is not how fucking anything works. I like to think that's what the commission members are thinking when they're down here protesting, like, you're wrong, you're stark raving mad.
That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think of it. Like, that could be like, that's not going to work.
You're just going to kill people, Magneto.
That's not how this works.
Magneto then decides to catch everyone up on what he's been up to, because the last time he was trying to irradiate people to create mutants, it kind of blew up in his face, so he wasn't feeling super great. Luckily, those new duds he gave Angel, that he hasn't really been wearing in favor of his old school outfit, or the terrible outfit Jean made, or just slacks and loafers.
Well, now we know why, because Magneto stole it.
Ah.
Wait, so you're telling me Magneto stole it and,
That's why he made it look good, because he knew he was going to wear it.
and Angel just kind of casually went on with his way.
Yeah, obviously. As you do.
After you have your clothes stolen
Well,
from
he
you.
still had to wear something, John.
Yes, but you don't really react when you had your entire outfit stolen. And you're
Let's
not
get
sure
into why he did this.
Okay.
The costume was secretly absorbing mutant energy from Warren whenever he wore it, so yesterday he snuck into the mansion, chloroformed Angel, and put on his clothes so he could get that good power up.
Mutant energy?
They've done that before. It's like Sauron and shit.
Uh,
He then got up to what we've all been watching. He kind of managed to take the X-Men by surprise because he was dressed like their friend. And I guess they don't recognize faces.
They're face blind.
Yep.
They're all face blind, even when he's wearing a hat.
For some reason, that intimidating story doesn't really spark fear into the hearts of the Commission, and they're still not willing to tell him how to kill, 92% of people.
Well, to be fair, if this guy's not afraid of Henry Kissinger, that makes sense.
Yep, he's got a backbone, my dude. Well, Magneto decides he's going to have to go digging in their brains to find the information, which again is not how this works. What might be being implied on the panel is what I would like to suggest is going on here anyways, because they showed Jean on this panel with the controlled government men. So I like to think that he's just trying to focus on controlling one of the telepaths and using them to puppeteer everyone else.
That would make so much more sense.
Yep. They're much more suited for that kind of thing than he is. You're trying to use a hacksaw to do brain surgery. But even though the process is tedious, he's got plenty of time. That's what he thinks. Up above, and following T'Challa's nose, suddenly, Daredevil is picking up bad vibrations.
Follow your nose, wherever it goes.
He thinks there's a cave beneath them, and Thor doesn't take even a moment to consider the information. He just trusts his friend and immediately smacks the ground with his hammer, breaking through the cave where everyone has been holed up.
That's my boy.
I love him.
He's such a himbo.
He is.
He's
Attack.
perfect. He's the perfect man.
There's a cave down there. Okay. Hammer, 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 hammer.
Mag sets his army on the Avengers, but his army, again, doesn't fight super well. They're being pretty stupid about it.
And they're fighting Thor.
Yep. I love this. Iron Man tries to hold back Thor's hammer, and so Thor pretty much immediately flings him onto the ground on the other side.
Oh my god.
But he then gets pinged in the head by an optic blast. Follow it back to the source. There's Cyclops, but Black Panther pounces up onto his back, knocking him to the ground and getting him in a chokehold. But before Black Panther can put Scott out of the fight, in comes Bobby. This is a pretty dynamic fight scene. It's got a real flow to it, and I like that.
When Bobby's in ice form, do you think he still has blood?
I don't know.
Because his entire body turns into ice.
You see some weird shit later on, so I'm inclined to say no, but I don't know, frankly.
Does he have ice blood?
Maybe.
That's weird.
Iceman and Black Panther get to scrapping, but let's take a step back to Cyclops, because T'Challa never managed to actually fully knock him out. And so he's still up and fighting with Daredevil, who is actually really amused. The man who's all eyes versus the blind man.
Wow.
Daredevil is just all about making blind
He is.
and I support him.
But he's also an asshole in his head.
Well, yeah.
He then also makes an awful eye pun that barely makes sense, but that's my secret, for better or worse. Eyes got a secret, you might say. No, Matthew, I wouldn't.
Well, it's a good thing he's keeping these to himself.
He decks Scott, but let's follow this along to someone else. Jean levitates Daredevil off the ground as Wanda casts her hex bolts on the cave ceiling. As it begins to crash down, the Black Widow snares Magneto in one of her cables, yoinking him right into the danger zone too, so he'll protect Matt by protecting himself. He does, but Magneto is so done with this fight. He decides he's just going to override the rest of the Avengers' minds too. And you know what that means? Time for more gloating! He delights over his victory to number one, the one guy he hasn't had to be mind-controlling this entire time. So, he never expects the chop to the back of the neck that drops him.
Okay.
Magneto crumples to the ground as the Piper begins to explain, but in Vision's voice, that he solidified his brain enough to be able to take charge, which again, this comic is making a lot of upsetting claims about Vision's powers that I don't enjoy.
What? I am within the body of this mutant flautist, yet still so nearly intangible as to save all his organs from harm. Only my brain has been solidified just enough to direct his movements. My answer to Magneto's mind control. What?
I don't have anything for you there, man. I don't know.
If I get into that, we're gonna be here all day.
Yeah. Finally able to move again, Charles Xavier puts Magneto into a deep sleep, assumedly off to live in basement jail like the Juggernaut before him. He remembers everything that happened, and so do the rest of the people that he was manipulating, so that's gotta be very uncomfortable for Wanda, but hey, not all is peachy. They've looked all over the house, and Warren is just straight up not there. The ominous cloud that's been building over the X-Men seems to be coming to a head. One that we're going to ignore, because I explained it earlier, and the conclusion's thoroughly unenjoyable. I don't enjoy those Captain America issues, so that's the X-Men out of the way. Over to the Avengers, Captain America offers Daredevil and the Black Widow membership. Matt says they're going to have to decline, though it's mostly because living with a group would be sensory hell for him, which is fair. But Natasha isn't necessarily on board with Matt speaking for her. She accepts the Avengers offer. Matt then heads off back home, and on that note we close the issue and move on to something else. Last off, we have Marvel Team Up 23 from April of 1974.
Wow.
Written by Len Wein, who's going to play a very important role for us in the near future. A fun thing I learned about Len is when he was a kid, DC Comics had these company tours they'd give at the offices like every week. So he'd go like once a month, every month, and I think that's adorable. But also apparently all the artists would clamor to work on his scripts because he had a very easily understandable way of writing for art, and I love that. Anyway, on pencils we have Gil Kane, David Hunt and Mike Esposito are on inks, Glennis Wein is our colorist, and lastly we have one more last name, Charlotte Jetter, who is mostly just a name. I can't find much information on her. I know she was born in Germany and emigrated to the States, but I don't have any information on the whens or whys on that, so that's about all I got on her. Let's get along to this silly bit of fluff.
What the What?
Well, Spider-Man is in a spaceship.
Yes! Why?
And
What?
also the Human Torch is there.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if he's piloting. Is he piloting?
I don't know if he's piloting. This is some kind of gadget he borrowed from the Fantastic Four to get him somewhere. I don't remember where.
Oh no, it's a death trap.
Yeah, this is one of the few times that Spider-Man isn't actually the team-up in Marvel Team-Up. It's almost every time. Though don't worry, we do show him here.
They're teasing us with him.
Yeah. So, he's taking off from the Baxter building in some kind of Fantastic Four mobile as the Human Torch wishes him good luck.
He also appears to be headed off towards giant-sized Spider-Man #1.
He also looks very comfortably reclined.
He does. Reed made this bitch comfy.
It's still probably a death trap, but it's a comfy death trap.
As Peter heads off into the great blue yonder, Johnny heads back home, glad that Peter is out of the city and less likely to crash the car plane buggy thing. The bitch can't drive and Johnny knows this full well. He probably should have just found a way to go along with Spidey because as soon as he gets home, Johnny is impatient and antsy.
That's not really a surprise.
He's been having to manage a lot of people's interpersonal issues and he's having romantic problems and frankly he wants a distraction. So before Spider-Man headed off towards the horizon, he gave Johnny a tip for where he might find some action. Whether this was intended hornily or not, unconfirmed, but tonight action is what the Human Torch craves.
Okay.
I mean, we've seen him fucking his way through the Inhuman family, so...
Yeah.
Johnny heads off to the location the webhead gave him, but when he gets there, action of any sort seems to be not in the cards. He does notice a patch of ice on the sidewalk, though, something he finds baffling considering that the temperature was in the 60s all day. While he's examining the ice on the sidewalk, though, another blast of ice catches him in the back of the neck. Well, he was already touchy, so that does it. He's going to go find the Iceman and give him a taste of his own medicine.
Wow.
It doesn't take long to find him. Bobby apparently hasn't made it far after his unwarranted attack on the Human Torch. Well, Bobby cold-clocked him, so he's in the clear to strike from behind, too.
And make him fall as far as he wants.
Yep, he melts Bobby's slide right behind him and sending him plummeting. Iceman forms up a quick freeze slide to help arrest his fall before he can hit the street below. He manages it, but the Torch is hot on his tail, demanding answers for why the mobster attacked him out of the blue and why he was robbing a jewelry store to begin with.
Bobby, are you wearing ice pants?
No, that's his
they're
boots.
not pants.
That's his booties.
They're his boots. They're like folded down on top.
No.
Oh, that's his shorts.
Then
And the cuffs of his little boots.
that's all boot?
No, that's
No.
all leg.
Oh, that's his
Leg.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
very hard to make out what is what when he's all one color.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
fair. Iceman denies the claim, but Mr. Storm isn't having it. He explains how Spidey earlier today found a burglary in progress, but when he burst in, he couldn't get his webs to stick to the perpetrator, who then left after Spider-Man slipped on an ice patch, buying him a moment to escape. And since it's a lovely spring day, that ice patch shouldn't have just stuck around. Bobby finds this evidence less than compelling, but the Torch is sure and starts making a flame lasso to loop around the Iceman. I don't know. Iceman's not just going to passively let the Human Torch arrest him. So now is when shit gets silly.
I think they're both just being goofy.
They're clowns. Bobby makes a giant pair of ice shears to cut Johnny's fire lasso,
Because those are all things.
and then pitches some snowballs Johnny's way to try and batter him back. The Torch keeps pressing,
They're
though.
also just out on the street with civilians.
Just watching,
You know.
trying to stay out of the way. The Torch keeps pressing, though, encircling Bobbert in a wreath of flame. Bobby forms up a cloud by blasting the air right above the flames, causing a cloud to form and subsequently rain on Johnny's parade.
Okay.
Johnny's impressed, but not that impressed, failing to note the obvious because he's a perfect idiot. If Bobby can do that to those flames, what can he do to your flaming ass hovering above the Manhattan streets?
He can put you out.
Which is exactly what Drake does, extinguishing the Torch and bringing him back down to his level, where the two begin to brawl in earnest.
And now they're just fighting like guys.
Yep.
This is such a great team up.
And,
love it.
Someone's driving by.
Yep.
Yep.
A familiar green car pulls onto the scene, and the X-Men, now I think in their second uniforms, the ones we haven't seen so far in the fucking hiatus era, they pile out of the car. Cyclops tries to end this by just calling the fight off between them, but neither of them want to hear him, too wrapped up in their squabble. The X-Men exasperatedly watch as this pair begin to take their fight back to the skies.
Oh, god damn it.
But at Jean's suggestion, Scott blasts the pair. Snapped back to reality as they fall, Jean catches them
Snap
lowing...
back to reality.
Whoop, there goes gravity. Wow, that's shockingly fitting. Jean catches them and lowers them safely back to Earth. Well, now the Council of Teens can commence. The X-Men are mostly not here because Bobby is brawling. No, it seems Bobby stomped off in a huff about a half hour ago for some reason. Maybe he's beefing with Alex again, I don't know. But it seemed that he did this just before Charles was about to explain a secret mission to them. And so now the X-Men are instead on a secret mission to wrangle the baby of the bunch. Johnny realizes that if Bobby was hanging out with the X-Men a half hour ago, he didn't really have time to rob this place and beat up Spider-Man before he left. An aggravated Bobby Drake is just glad that the Flame Brain finally got it. He's not willing to go back to the school until he takes care of this, though, but he does promise that he'll try to be back by the dawn departure time. To which Scott Yoda's back, do or do not, there is no try. The remaining 3 X-Men pile back into the professor's roles and head back off to Westchester, leaving Bobby and Johnny to figure their shit out.
Hey, Johnny, this is why people don't like the Fantastic Four.
The two take to the skies above New York. I personally think they need to fly a little further apart, but I guess if Bobby can reinforce his slide against the Torch's heat, that's fine.
He won't fall to his death.
Yeah, I still think it's a bad idea. They decide that the best place to start is where both the Torch and Spidey ran into this guy, so they head back to the jewelry store. And they do indeed find the guy right away. So the detectives here got their man in one. This time Snowball here is through with subtlety and just blew a hole through the wall to get in. The pair creep in through the newly made hole, noting that rather than just having been blown in by sheer force, the hole actually appears to have been melted into the wall.
What kind of walls melt?
Any wall if you try hard enough. The pair whisper their thoughts on this, ignoring that their whole idea was to sneak up on the culprit, who immediately hears them and hits Johnny with a blast of ice and Bobby with a burst of flame. The duo are knocked to the ground, where they observe a humanoid figure clad in a metallic skin of some sort, jumping out of the hole they just came in through, a brown parcel under his arm. Iceman is quick enough to hurl an ice ball between Shiny's shoulder blades, which throws him off balance, and between that and a flying leap from the torch, he's knocked to the ground. He says something about being short on time when he realizes that the attack ripped a hole in his protective metal skin. Johnny and Bobby start to feel that maybe something's not right here, something's off. Their opponent then strips away the suit, bemoaning the cruelty of fate. It seems he was trying to cure some kind of affliction he was suffering with that left his body half flame and half ice.
Okay.
He then proclaims himself Equinox, the thermodynamic man, and now he'll have his vengeance for their intervention.
Where's his dick?
Burnt off on Mustafar.
Oh no!
Iceman and the Torch reel back, trying to get their feet under them. Bobby observes that when his hands are fire, he fires ice, and when there's ice, they do the opposite. Well, Johnny's sick of playing sitting duck, so he decides if he's going down, he's going down fighting, and Iceman follows his lead. But Equinox is strong enough to knock them both back. The fight's not over, and they continue to clash when suddenly all three combatants hear the wail of approaching sirens. Equinox isn't too keen on dealing with the cops, so he finally bails on the confrontation, merely grabbing his package and leaping atop a passing bus. The Human Torch and Iceman give chase, which the bus driver has got to be really confused about what's going on.
Something thumps on top of the bus, and now you have two
Thump,
weirdos
They're
chasing
fucking
you.
fighting on top of the roof of the goddamn bus. Yeah, they continue their fight until Bobby finally knocks Equinox off. But that still doesn't break the fracas off. What does break it off is Equinox, the thermodynamic man, suddenly exploding, leaving only a crater in the street and his mysterious stolen package, which is revealed to be an atomic clock.
Did you kill him?
I don't know. It's hinted that he may be alive, being carried away by the sewer underneath the street. But I think it's one of those comic book endings where it may or may not happen. Or it happened in another issue of Marvel Team Up, and I completely forgot about it because I hate Marvel Team Up.
And he's just some weird running theme in Marvel Team Up.
I don't remember him showing up more than once, but I could be wrong about
So
that.
they did kill him, okay.
I mean, his powers are like ice and fire, so it's pretty clear they invented him just for this team up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they killed him.
On that note, we're done for the day.
That was anticlimactic.
Yeah.
What kind of ratings do we have? Let's start off with our Avengers twofer.
3 out of 5.
Yeah. Now you're a co-host, you have to give actual numbers.
God.
Thor was there, and I enjoyed that.
He was fun.
He was good.
It was weird.
T'Challa and Daredevil's fucking comic maneuver.
I don't know. Daredevil's lack of actually saying the things he thinks. Good for him.
Unlike Peter.
Yeah.
Vision was intense.
Vision stunned a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And I did just do air quotes because that's not how stunning
And he
works.
also phased his brain through another guy's brain just enough to control his body.
Which is definitely how brains work.
That's not how anything works. None of that was how anything worked.
But I mean, hey, Magneto can bloodbend, so...
Right, it was really fun. There was a lot of gross shit in there.
As long as you suspend your disbelief a lot, it was enjoyable.
What I'm sad for is that, I mean, as far as the X-Men are concerned, that's it. It doesn't really have a satisfying ending.
No, they just kind of leave. That ending would have been better if I had explained it between these two issues, but I don't care because it was stupid.
Give us a rating, John. Give us a number.
I don't know. I guess 3 out of 5?
That's about where I stand too.
It'd be better if he had a more satisfying ending.
It's mostly good dumb fun. Natasha in the middle bemoaning her romantic life was a lot.
But
yeah.
But then she decides, actually, I can have a life
Yeah.
without my man?
You go, girl.
Hell yeah. All right, how about Marvel Team Up Equinox?
1 out of 5.
Yeah.
Like,
that's being generous.
almost incomprehensible. Like, it was mostly just Bobby and Johnny fighting, and then they fought this guy for 2 pages, and then it was over.
And then he exploded and died?
Yeah. Died, question mark?
It is funny that they were just beating each other up with their bare hands.
Yeah, I don't know why I actually enjoyed that a little more. I mean, it's not a good issue. It's a 2, but I think it's better than a 1. You're both at incomprehensible 1 out of 5.
Like, this is something, all right.
It sure was a comic book.
Yes.
It sure was.
It was the most comic book of all time.
Indeed. Well, that's it for our X-Men for today. Next time we're back with them, we're going to be meeting up with a new friend, so that should be interesting.
So this episode is going to be coming out when Thor: Love and Thunder comes out, so obviously look forward to next episode. We're going to be talking about that.
Yeah, that's exciting. Also, apologies for being late on this issue. That shit with the Supreme Court hit, and I could not get my head in the kind of place where I could write up what happened in this in any kind of understandable way. So we had to bump this out a week, and apologies for that. Thank you for your patience. But other than that, it's just our normal housekeeping. Rate and review us on whatever podcatcher you use. We're available almost anywhere. Rate us even on Spotify, even though we won't be able to review your stuff. If you want to email the show, maybe you know a little bit more about Avengers or Captain America or why he suddenly has super strength but didn't have super strength, or
maybe you've heard of Equinox.
what happened to
Do
Pietro.
you know why Equinox exploded?
Does Equinox ever show up again? That sounds like I'm just trying to give a cliffhanger for next week. Next week, find out if Equinox shows up.
Spoiler alert, no.
I mean, it would be very impressive if the answer was yes.
It would be, but it's not. You can also hit us up over on social media. We are Comicsplaining over on Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want to watch a video version of the show and see this fantastic maneuver from Matt and T'Challa, we have a YouTube version of the show that we put out weekly that includes different clips of the stuff we're talking about on the screen. So, like, subscribe, and smash the bell button. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, we have a Patreon. We're actually coming up with some new ideas for Patreon things.
Oh, yes, I did actually want to mention that. Pretty soon here, John and I are going to be recording a little mini episode for Patreon. We're going to have a reading list breakdown for if you want to read the comics that Love and Thunder is adapting, and we're also going to have a short discussion about that. So if you're interested in that, subscribe on Patreon.
I've had to watch all the Thor movies and everything he's been in. Help.
Shout out to our one fine, great, and wonderful patron, Robin. We also have a coffee if you just want to shoot us a few bucks. That would be great and wonderful and well appreciated. But we just appreciate that you're here listening.
And if you hear that, those are fireworks.
We're going to be back at you next week with Thor, and we look forward to talking to you then. Bye!
Bye!